Sumeru is the land of Dendro and Wisdom, located to the west of Liyue. In version 3.0, we will get to visit this region for the first time and see what it has to offer. However, the desert area and the possibility of another god residing there is what has piqued my interest the most. So, in this video, I'll go over what we know about it, the ruins located within it and the possibility of a Bygone Civilization, and connections to the Abyss Order and Khaenri'ah. Also, if you like this video, consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, let's move right on and get into the video. To start, I'd just like to say that desert regions are some of my favorites in video games, so I'm very excited for this part of Sumeru, which is why I'm making a whole separate video on it. So let's start off this section by going over the second Sumeru preview trailer, of Rain and Sand, that gives us a glimpse into Sumeru's desert regions. The first clip we see of the desert gives us a nice wide shot. In it, we can see just how vast this area could be, with endless stretches of sand, as well as rocky formations here and there. We can also see a few types of flora here, including some cacti and trees resembling a baobab tree, which are quite wide so that they can store more water. We can also see some sort of technology here and there, starting with this pillar on the left side of the screen. It appears to be newer compared to other pieces of ancient technology we've seen, and even has a light blue glow towards the top. Then of course, there's the giant pyramid that sits in the middle of the desert. It seems to be absorbed something from the sky, but I'll get more into this later. Now, the next few clips give us some more looks at the geography and features of this desert. The first shows more of the rocky and mountainous area, which reminds me of the Gerudo region in Zelda Breath of the Wild. There is also a small oasis scene here, as well as a much larger and brighter one with more flora surrounding it in the next clip. These specimens of flora also include trees that resemble palm trees. On the left behind a rock, we can also see the top of a hilichurl base, meaning the hilichurls may want to stay away from the harsher parts of the desert. The final of these clips shows more of the mountains, but also shows how open this area could be. Now, the next clips show some of the mysterious and ancient buildings that are present in the deserts of Sumeru. Once again, we get a wide opening shot of some of these structures. While the structures themselves look quite pristine, the platforms that they stand on certainly do not, as they look mostly eroded away. The buildings do also have a hint of light blue, similar to teleport waypoints, statues of the Seven, and of course, celestial nails. This has led me to believe that this place might have some sort of connection to Celestia, and potentially even the Four Shades of the Primordial One, but I'll get into that later on. In the next two clips, we are shown more of these buildings located underground, suggesting the possibility of a vast underground network that was hollowed out for the creation of these buildings. You can also see multiple statues that could possibly represent the deity that these buildings were constructed for. When I saw these statues, I instantly thought of Egyptian mythology, and by extension, the Egyptian sun god Ra. These statues bear quite a resemblance to Ra, even sharing the same falcon head. In the second clip, there are more statues possibly representing a different god, with these statues down here having more of a head of an alligator, similar to the Egyptian goddess Ammit. At the beginning of the next clip, we can see a few pyro monuments, maybe suggesting that the Ra-like statues may be the representative of Genshin's own sun god, which is possibly the reason that this desert exists in Sumeru, the land of Dendro. I'll get more into these gods in the next section, but for now, I'd like to continue discussing this trailer. In this next clip, we get another open area that has a lot of pillars, and a lot of sand flooded in. Behind one of these pillars on the right, there is also a small, unique-looking object, but I can't seem to figure out what it is. If any of you have any ideas as to what it could be, please let me know in the comments down below. Now, This clip is also where I finally noticed the repeated theme of pentagons throughout these buildings. While it could just be a design choice, I feel as though it could also have a deeper meaning. Perhaps the 5 sides represent a group of 5 gods that either once ruled here or still have some sort of presence in the Sumerian deserts. Again, I'll get into more god talk later, so let's move on to much later in the teaser. In this clip here, we can see the dividing point between the lush jungle part of Sumeru and the desert part of Sumeru. There is a wall that divides them, and it seems that the desert is pushing through, much like I suggested in my Sumeru review video. Moving on though, we now get a clearer view of the Great Pyramid of Sumeru, including how it absorbs some sort of energy from the sky. There is also a prism of some sort at the top, which is again light blue, pointing even more to the structure having a connection to Celestia in one way or another. Anyways, in the next clip, we can see more of the rock formations found in the desert. It shows the layers of different rocks in the cliffs, as well as a cave that could also be part of the massive underground area mentioned earlier, and that part of it may be naturally forming after all. We'll just have to see. In the next and final clip, we can see another giant ruin machine, with this one being trapped between 2 cliffs. On the right side, we can see this machine's hand, which looks like you'd be able to walk right in. It's also interesting how both of these machines both have vines around them, with the ones in the desert being dead, which makes me think that perhaps the god of the woods was able to trap these machines before being killed in the Cataclysm. Now, as for the release of this desert region, I don't believe it will be released in version 3.0, but rather in version 3.1 with another possible extension in version 3.2. Anyways, I think it's time to go in depth with some of my new thoughts and theories regarding Sumeru's desert and its secret history. So, let's dive right in. Beneath the seemingly happy and joyful surface of Teyvat, there are many secrets and mysteries that show the true nature of the world. Ancient civilizations are among these secrets, including Salvandognir, Ankonomia, Surmi Islands, and the mysterious city beneath the surface of the chasm, just to name a few. The one in Sumeru's desert feels a bit different to me though. While there are parts that are destroyed or flooded with sand, it doesn't exactly seem abandoned in its entirety. Loyal followers of the gods for whom the buildings were built could potentially still live there. Perhaps these followers could even be the mercenaries known as the Eremites that we have heard about a few times before. Anyways, I'd now like to discuss the gods that may still reside in the Sumerian desert. The statues in the building seem to point to one or more gods being worshipped at some point by the people of the desert, and were respected or feared enough to have an entire complex of pyramids and other structures built for them. As for what they might be the gods of, I have an idea for at least the prime of these deities. They may be, as I suggested earlier, Genshin's sun god, or the god of the desert. The sun god would make sense as they live in a desert which would be naturally very hot. The god of the desert would also be a mirror of sorts to the god of the woods, so that would make sense too. As I said, I believe the sun god would be the prime of these deities, much like how Morax was the prime of the Adepti. This group of deities could be like the Adepti of Sumeru. A lot of the Egyptian gods have the bodies of humans with the head of a certain animal, and that could likely also be the theme of these deities. Another thought I had was that the sun god could be connected to the 4 shades of Phanes, or even be one of the 4 shades themselves. This would be the second appearance of one of the 4 shades in statue form, the first being the statue of the omnipresent god in Inazuma, which is most likely Istaroth, the god of time. If they are one of the 4 shades, they would probably be more than just the god of the sun and desert. As for what I think they could be the god of, I think it may be the god of life. While the desert seems more like a place of death, life does persevere there in the end, and death is also just a part of life. I definitely believe that these buildings are connected to Celestia in some way. as the buildings in one of these shots seems to just be floating on islands, which could be a result of the power of this god or Celestia, and also has a lot of cubic design to it, which could draw a parallel to the unknown god and her cube attack seen in the opening cutscene. Either way, I firmly believe that this place will have ties to Celestia in some way or another, be it through one of the Four Shades or just through an ancient civilization. Anyways, I think it's time we dive into the final section of this video, where I'll talk about the possible roles that the Abyss Order and Khaenri'ah could play in the Sumerian desert. The Abyss Order is one of the main groups of antagonists in the game, with even the Traveler's sibling being on their side. They seek to overthrow the rule of the gods and revive their homeland of Khaenri'ah. To me, this means they'll take any opportunity they can to gain the upper hand in their goal. As for what they could be after, it could be the pyramid itself. In the teaser, it was described as having upside-down ruins as part of it, specifically the top, and there may be others surrounding it. Upside-down things seem to have abyssal powers for some reason in Genshin, as seen with the defiled statue of the Seven and the mysterious city in the chasm. However, there could be a celestial nail within the pyramid itself, and the pyramid could act as an amplifier or something to be able to collect all the energy it is taking in during the teaser. If the Abyss found out about this, they may try and obtain the energy for themselves, especially if the pyramid gives it more power. The Abyss Order could also have an interest in the two giant ruin machines that we have seen around Sumeru so far. They could potentially assist with their plan to make a mechanical god using Osile, as ruin machines as big as that would need quite a big power source. While it isn't the eye of the first field tiller, it could potentially assist their quest. I believe that the Abyss could definitely have some sort of role here, and this may be the first time that the Abyss Order and Celestia would be directly opposed, which could pose some interesting consequences. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next video.